the moment I read it, heard it, Michael told me about it, it was just this gorgeous jewel box of a heartwarming show. It's so universal, it's so hopeful, and it's ironically so incredibly human. So it was a very easy decision to be like, let's put this thing in Michael's hands and make him bring it to life.
I saw it first in 2016, the first time I saw it, in a small rehearsal room at Ripley Greer Studios on 8th Avenue in Manhattan. I was invited by an agent to come and see it, and I was enamored of it. At that point, there were only 3 characters in the musical, and one of the, there wasn't a jazz singer. That came later on, and Marcus Choi was in the presentation that I saw. When we went to it, the Atlanta Alliance, there was an incredible amount of an Asian audience that was coming from Korea who had heard about this show. And at that point, the Atlanta Alliance gave us our first home here in the United States. But then in March 22nd of that year, there was an article in the New York Times that said the Times was covering the theater scene in Atlanta. And the writer was Jesse Green. He said the show was Broadway ready on March 22nd, 2020. Well, Broadway had closed down on March 12th, 2020. There's a long lead time.
Broadway just needed to prepare, that's all.
Right. And so we were going to come to Broadway the next season. The Schubert organization come down and seen us, Bob Wankel, and loved the show. But Broadway wasn't Broadway again, and there were so many other shows. We did presentations, and at one of those presentations, Hunter came and told me he had never seen anything like this, and he wanted to come on board. A lot of people did right away, but his passion and his enthusiasm at that time was extraordinary, and we were working on a couple of projects. So I was delighted that he was so thrilled with what he had seen, and that this time we had a 4th character in the production, Des Duran. His character was added in Atlanta. That was the first time that we had it. There was a play that opened in 1960, and it was going to close after 1 week, and we were never in that situation. But Ed Sullivan and his wife came to see it. Ed Sullivan, for those who don't know, used to have a very popular Sunday night TV show, and he said everybody should go see this play, that play, and he really saved that play. The play was called All the Way Home, based on a memoir by a critic named James Agee. And it was then called The Miracle on 44th Street because instead of closing, there was a spurt at the box office, and they stayed open through the Tonys. They won the Tony that year. They won the Pulitzer Prize, and it was called The Miracle on 44th Street. And Hunter and I kind of felt that we are the miracle on 44th Street this year. We were never going to close, I tell you that. But it's no secret that when this show began performances, you know, Hunter still has a full head of hair, but I had a full head of hair too when this began. And those
I paid good money for it, don't worry.
Yeah, no.
It'd be gone if it
wasn't.
But it
was, our word of mouth was so good that it began to create a want-to-see factor for the show. And, it was incredible. We began to build week after week. I mean, the one thing now is that you all can look at, the history of grosses on a week-to-week basis and how we began our slow climb to, what would you say, solvency or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I think we always knew that this show, right, which has a very challenging elevator pitch, and one of the biggest challenges of opening any show on Broadway is you have no production material yet, right? That you have to get to your B-roll before you can even show it. So we have a show that was hard to tell. We couldn't yet show it. We knew it was going to require the audience being the people who built those grosses, who built that attendance. And, we had some early internal signs of life, meaning we could see wraps going up. But there were a few weeks where, you know, you just prayed that what you believed and what you felt like you were seeing in the theater would actually be pulled through by those audiences. And I think we both feel exceptionally fortunate that that's how it played out.